Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Organized Crime News Weekly. I'm Keith Badati, and we're going to discuss a few stories that happened this past week that I found pretty interesting that I've not seen a lot of coverage on, so let's get right into it. A man named Francisco Correa Galeano was found dead after being stabbed to death in prison in Bogota, Colombia. He had been convicted of the murder of Paraguayan prosecutor Marcelo Pecci in 2022. He was sentenced to 6.5 years in May 2024 after making a deal to collaborate with the prosecutor's office. He was accused of recruiting the gunman in the assassination of Pecci, and Pecci was murdered on a beach while enjoying his honeymoon with his pregnant wife. Pecci's murder is believed to have been ordered by Sebastian Marcet. Sebastian Marcet is a Uruguayan drug lord. He is famous for the fact that he bought a Paraguayan soccer team and then made himself a player on the team in order to deflect suspicion that he was a drug lord. He used the soccer team to launder his money. He is now hiding out in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates. Paraguayan and Uruguayan officials are looking to have him extradited, but he remains there, and it could be a while before he faces any justice. But Correa Galeano, like I said, was responsible for coordinating the assassination of Pecci, who had been looking into Sebastian Marcet, and it's unknown exactly what Galeano was collaborating regarding, but likely he was providing information on Marcet, so it's unknown if Marcet had Galeano murdered, but it wouldn't be surprising, but we shall see. Next, we are going to the islands of Trinidad and Tobago, where a state of emergency was declared amidst rising levels of retaliatory gang killings. This emergency has empowered the military to make arrests and allows authorities to enter suspects' homes without warrant and deny them bail. 2024 was a particularly violent year for the country of Trinidad and Tobago, where 623 murders occurred. Experts say there are more than 180 gangs in Trinidad and Tobago, with more than 1,750 members. The two most prominent gangs in Trinidad and Tobago are Rasta City and the Muslims. They're thought to have only control of retail-level drug dealing, while the international trafficking of drugs is controlled by powerful elites in Trinidad and Tobago, but they are responsible for most of the violence that's consumed Trinidad and Tobago overall, and we shall see how the state of emergency works out for them. It kind of reminds me of what is currently going on in Ecuador. They declared a state of emergency last year, also due to rising gang violence, but it hasn't slowed down the violence. It has actually only increased in Ecuador, and Ecuador was once considered a relatively peaceful country compared to others in South America, and now some say it's become almost a narco state. So it remains to be seen, but I wouldn't be surprised if the state of emergency backfires on Trinidad and Tobago. Okay, now we're going to another Caribbean island. We're going to Haiti, where a Haitian gang leader named Faro Markinson, also known as Commander Tirade, was arrested in Santiago, Dominican Republic. He was the leader of the Bois Kale gang, and the Bois Kale gang was originally set up as a vigilante group to protect citizens from gangs, but some have said that in reality it has just become another gang. This past week, Markinson was handed over to the Haitian police after being arrested in the Dominican Republic. He was handed over in the border city of Dajabon, Haiti, and minutes after being handed over to Haitian authorities, Markinson was then kidnapped by an angry crowd who managed to overpower the police, and he was subsequently beaten to death with sticks for having his body set on fire. And for those who aren't aware, Haiti in the past year has been embroiled in unprecedented levels of gang violence. Last year, there was a coalition of gangs that was formed by prominent gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, aka Barbecue, and this coalition has vowed to take over Haiti and actually now controls 80 to 90% of the capital city of Port-au-Prince. And they faced little opposition from the Haitian police, but the African country of Kenya has sent some of their officers over to Haiti to combat the Haitian gangs. However, they've had little success, as the Haitian gangs are better armed than these police officers are. This murder of Markinson is just another example of the savagery that has engulfed Haiti for the past year, and being quite honest, years. And it doesn't look like there's any signs that any of this sort of violence is going to end in Haiti. Just a couple weeks ago, there was an incident where I think the number was around 100 elderly citizens were murdered by Haitian gangs who stormed a building. So, gotten pretty out of control. I don't think it's going to get any better anytime soon, unfortunately. Okay, for this next story, we are going to Turkey, where 3 members of the Daltonlar gang were arrested for shootings and extortion. Daltonlar gang is a prominent gang in Turkey that is behind a lot of extortions as well as some drug trafficking, particularly heroin. Their leader is a man named Baris Boyan, who in early 2024 was arrested in Italy, where he is currently incarcerated awaiting trial. The shootings that the Daltonlar gang members were accused of took place in Kirkköy, Florya, which is a district of Istanbul, biggest city in Turkey. 2 of the suspects came to a company that sells window films for cars on a motorcycle and shot up a shop before fleeing. Suspects then called the owner and demanded a meeting for extortion money. When the owner didn't make an appointment, they came back to the shop and shot it up again later that night. The incident was recorded by security cameras, and police were able to trace the motorcycle and subsequently arrest the suspects. And it is thought that the orders came from abroad, as most of the top gang leaders of a lot of the gangs in Turkey are in other countries, such as in Georgia, even Russia. And as I said earlier, Boyan was arrested in Italy. And the Daltonlar gang also has prominent roots in Greece, where last year 6 members were murdered. Daltonlars also have a prominent base in Greece. Daltonlar gang also has a big presence in Greece. Most notably last year, 6 of their members were shot dead as part of an ongoing feud with another Turkish gang. So I don't think these arrests of these members will have much of an impact on the gang at all. Have tentacles well into other European countries. Okay, now we're going to the UK, where a lawyer named Topur Hassan was arrested for planning the murder of Izzet Eren in Moldova. Izzet Eren was a leader of the Tottenham Turks, which is a prominent gang primarily of Turkish men located in London, England. And Eren was murdered back in July in the country of Moldova in Eastern Europe. Hassan was disbarred in 2013 from practicing law. He was arrested back in August, but it's just now been reported that he's been arrested. And the murder of Eren was revenge for a shooting in London earlier in 2024 that targeted the Tottenham Turks' main rivals, the Hackney Bombers. And in this shooting, an innocent girl was seriously wounded but survived. And Eren's murder is thought to have been revenge for this shooting, where a couple other members of the Hackney Bombers were wounded. But this war between the Hackney Bombers and the Tottenham Turks has been going on since about the mid-2000s, and it doesn't look like it's slowed down at all. And these gangs also have ties to international Turkish drug lords, most notably the Babishin clan, who have deep connections to the Turkish state. So this war between the Hackney Bombers and the Tottenham Turks is more than just a street gang war. It has international implications, as well as these gangs are sponsored by more prominent drug traffickers with connections to the deep state in Turkey. Okay, and for our final story this week, pretty fascinating one. Alleged Yakuza leader Takeshi Ebisawa pleaded guilty in a New York courtroom to 6 different counts, most notably conspiracy to traffic nuclear materials, including uranium and weapons-grade plutonium. He was busted by an undercover DEA agent posing as an intermediary for an Iranian general looking to procure the materials. And I'm sure, as most people know, Iran has been aggressively trying to develop its nuclear program in recent years, so it's not unreasonable that they would try to pose as an Iranian general. And the nuclear materials were secured from Burma, also known as Myanmar, in Southeast Asia. Ebisawa was also busted for trafficking heroin and meth into the U.S., in exchange for U.S. manufactured weaponry, such as surface-to-air missiles, to be used for an ethnic insurgent group in Burma. For those unaware, for the past 4 years, Myanmar, or Burma, has been embroiled in a pretty brutal civil war. A few years ago, a military junta took power in Myanmar, and since then there's been a rebellion from various different fronts as all these different ethnic insurgent groups have been trying to oust the Burmese government, and this has led to all sorts of genocide and atrocities on all sides. And after his arrest, it was found that the materials procured by Ebisawa were suitable for use in a nuclear weapon. So it looks like he wasn't bluffing when he was telling the undercover DEA operatives that he actually had nuclear materials. So it says that Ebisawa is a Yakuza leader. I'm not sure exactly how true that is. They haven't really provided any evidence of which group he belongs to. I mean, there's tons of different Yakuza groups. There's the Yamaguchi Yumi, there's the Sumiyoshi Kai. They haven't really specified. I don't know if they're just putting blanket term of Yakuza on him because he's Japanese, but obviously he's been convicted of serious crimes. And despite him pleading guilty, it looks like he is facing a very stiff sentence. I mean, he was caught with nuclear materials, so I don't think they're going to go easy on him. And he's 60 years old, so I don't see him seeing the light of day again. But I thought this was interesting because it showed how organized crime will try to profit off of anything, even nuclear materials. This kind of reminds me of back in the 90s, there were a lot of rumors of Russian organized crime figures trying to procure nuclear materials from former Soviet Union and selling those on the black market, but didn't really materialize like a lot of pundits at the time said it would. But nevertheless, this is pretty alarming that he was able to obtain these nuclear materials. And Myanmar, aka Burma, is a place where a lot of the materials for nuclear weapons, such as uranium and plutonium, they are natural to the area. So it's unknown exactly how he acquired them, if he acquired them from the Burmese junta or from insurgent groups controlling a specific area where these materials are. Kind of a mystery at this point. But I thought this was a fascinating story and haven't heard a lot of coverage on this. And it concerns the Yakuza, which I feel like doesn't get a lot of attention these days, especially because the Yakuza has been on a rapid decline in Japan for the past 15 years after tough anti-gang laws were passed. So the Yakuza have not been as relevant in the international criminal scene for quite a while now. But nevertheless, sometimes members of the Yakuza make headlines with crazy stories like these. Okay, that's going to do it for this week of Organized Crime News Weekly. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm brand new at this, so I appreciate all the support I get. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you again next week for another